You really don't understand, do you? Hey, man, don't you realize in order for us to make this thing work, man, we've got to get rid of the pimps and the pushers and the prostitutes and then start all over again clean.
Hey, look, nobody's pushing me anyway, okay? I mean, not you, not the car.
Hello, my friends. This is going to be take two of a video I really wanted to do today and knock out. It's another extreme / forgotten. This film is, there's no indication whatsoever that it's going to be on Blu-ray anytime soon, which is kind of ridiculous. I'm going to read you the lyrics to the theme song of this this film, and this will probably give you the idea better than I could. So, this was written by the great Willie Hutch, who wrote the music and lyrics for the soundtrack to Jack Hill's Foxy Brown, starring Pam Grier. So let's check this out. Goldie, Goldie. Listen to me, everybody, while I tell you the story about the MACK. Hey, now, Goldie had it together. He had a master plan. He knew what he wanted, and the only way he could get it was cash, all in the hand. Now, the facts. The pusher man, Pretty Tony, another MACK, had plans to keep him down, because they knew he'd be bigger and better at the game, that he would be a heel taller. Yeah, little Lulu, China Doll, and Sweet Diane to help keep him on his feet. With tips from the blind man, he knew he would be the baddest MACK on the street. He's got to be on his job, yeah. He can't be asleep, no. He's going to show the players, Lady of Leisure, sure like that. If you wonder who I'm talking about the MACK. Yeah, girl, I'm talking about Goldie. Goldie. Let me tell you about it. So that was an exciting presentation. It lends itself to a rap version for sure. So, the MACK, Michael Campus directed in 1973. He was a white director. Most of the blaxploitation era directors were white, but not all by any means. But that's another tangent. There is an incredible interview with Michael Campus on the DVD of the MACK, which I own. Years ago, I was able to get on VHS the MACK, 1995, and that was the first time I'd seen it. I enjoyed it. I had parts of the soundtrack on this. It was something like Pimps, Pushers, and Hitmen. I mean, it was really kind of a almost unflattering, stereotypical thing about, blaxploitation, about people in the ghetto, like they're all criminals. Music was great though, selections from Shaft and Across 110th Street and the MACK and Superfly, some really good ones. So I love all that music, all of it. So that was Willie Hutch's introduction to the MACK, his Greek chorus. And his soundtrack does function as a Greek chorus in the same way that Curtis Mayfield's a year earlier did in Superfly. In other words, narrating, reacting, encapsulating the feelings of the characters through sound and melody and kind of, laying it down. And, a lot of rap is that storytelling, rock on tours. So the MACK starts with John Mickens. He is in prison, played by Max Julien. Very, very, very underrated actor in the history of acting, I believe. And a very cool and bohemian, wise guy. Though sometimes egotistical in his youth. So he can't stand the noise and the sound and the closing in. Finally, he gets out. I think he's in for like 5 years or something. Basically, it was some kind of shootout based on some kind of drug deal. It went wrong, and Goldie took a fall for everything. But he was there with Slick, his best friend, played by Richard Pryor. So this is 73. Richard Pryor had already been a successful comedian, a stand-up comedian. He'd been in several movies. He co-wrote the movie Blazing Saddles. He was a known entity, but not a superstar quite yet. This was his first dramatic role. Most people cite Blue Collar, in which he was brilliant. Several years later after this, though. But this was his first dramatic role. I mean, there is a little bit of comedy relief. He's like Goldie's sidekick. But there is established a friendship there, and Richard Pryor is a very earnest actor. He inhabits this character and he really kind of patterns the character from my research that I've been able to come across upon himself and a lot of his own problems making it in the streets growing up. You know, he was a victim of abuse and sexual abuse and a lot of other things. He was a little guy, and I understand. I sympathize. I haven't had sexual abuse, but I have had every other kind growing up, and it sucks. So let me tell you the story about the MACK. I can't better what he said. So yeah, he reunites with Slick. They kind of go over the incident, and they're cool. And Slick's going to be his partner. Now by this time, Goldie he's hanging out in this restaurant, club, the bar, whatever, a nightclub, I guess. And he's hanging out. And there's the old man. The old man character. I want to tell you about the actor because, damn it, I forgot his name. I feel like a total fool. And when you hear what I'm saying, you'll understand. Hopefully, I mean, if you're into these films, you'll get it. Cast. Slim. I'm sorry, not Slick. Gertrude Pryor, Slim. Paul Harris played the blind man. Paul Harris was in Across 110th Street, Truck Turner, and Baby Needs a Brand New Pair of Shoes, aka Jive Turkey. I've reviewed that latter film on my channel here. I mean, a blaxploitation kind of compendium of blaxploitation films I did a couple years ago. So Paul Harris is, a leading actor in his own right in a few movies. But in this one, he's embodying the character. He's basing his performance and his they're basing his dialogue, as his worldview, as it were, on the real life guy Iceberg Slim. So Iceberg Slim, had written a story called "Pimp: The Story of My Life." Very powerful, and he's wrote several other books, fiction and nonfiction. I had one of his books, and it didn't make my last move, and I can't remember the name of it. It was really good though, but because in prison he became a writer, and he wrote about what he knew. He wrote about the pimping trade, the being a Mac, and so this old man with the black glasses, who's blind, he tells Goldie, they're just casually talking about this, and he's like, "Pimping's big business. Been around since the beginning of time. You'll be around when someone shuts out the lights on this small planet." And then his other line, "Anybody can control a woman's body. The key is control of her mind." Now, disclaimer, I'm not advocating any of this behavior or attitude towards women or pimping or macking. Make that clear. This is a fictional story, which, yes, is based in many parts on real events and people, but I wasn't there, and you know what I'm saying. I do think prostitution should be legal, and the women given free health care, and fuck the pimps. That's my political opinion. I don't think it's going to go away. So yeah, I don't advocate that. But that's the dichotomy of the story is to make a character. See, a lot of people approach the blaxploitation era movies, and maybe some films with good reason, as, oh yeah, it's just glorifying the criminals in the neighborhood, making, that's all people will think we are. Okay, that's a very valid argument. But in Superfly, the cocaine dealer, young blood rapist, and the Mac, the pimp, John Mickens, aka Goldie, these are characters that have a certain street code nobility of sorts, and they're challenged many times as to how dark they're going to get. Are they going to have redemption, or are they going to sink into the darkness? And they're strong personalities. Now in Superfly, Youngblood Priest goes for redemption. He tries to lift himself out of the darkness and succeeds, really. Goldie descends. Goldie becomes not a good, cool guy anymore. He was a real cool guy. Apparently, he was very great best friends with Slim. Like I said, they had a shootout involving drugs. Goldie went to prison for 5 years. So he's at this club, Spyman gives him this advice. So he's now got this seed planted in his head to be a Mac. Runs into his friend. Hold on, I forget her name. It's the character's name. After all these years, Lulu. So Lulu is played by Carol Speed. Carol Speed, as an actress and as a person, is an absolute trip, and that's a compliment. I used to correspond with her a lot on MySpace. It was hard to tell where she was coming from sometimes. We got very familiar. I don't mean like, flirting or intimate. I just mean just as far as talking about stuff, events, the things she believed, and she had some interesting theories about about the world and life. But I really liked her, and she's very vulnerable and sweet in this movie. And the scene where they reunite because they had been lovers before is really beautiful. And the music kind of starts to swell, and we get this incredible song called "I Choose You." And of course, in pimping, uh, if the girls are lucky, like they have a reputation on the street, or they're working their way up the ladder, so to speak. They have an option, when there's an opening, they have an option to choose their pimp. They choose their man that they trust to take care of them and protect them, and of course take part of their money. And hopefully not beat the shit out of them. And so "I Choose You" playing during that scene. It's like the music is super romantic and beautiful, and it's like she's saying "I choose you," and it's almost like it's a love affair thing, but it almost seems like it's a one-sided thing. By the time they sleep together, it seems like she's the one who's excited about this. She wants Goldie to be her Mac, and that's kind of made the decision for Goldie, right? So, but Goldie's already beginning to kind of become disassociated from his intimates. So, in any case, he goes for it. And they got a montage where he's making the money, and a really incredible montage with some amazing shots and angles they were able to do, and just the simple one color room, and he's on his feet hurling cash up in the air in slow motion, and I'm about to hurl my drink here, and and then getting the Mac outfit, the hat. I love those hats; they're incredible. I've worn a similar one on the show. It was black though. And his cane, which, he doesn't need a cane for to walk. I used to walk with a cane. I had some kind of illness though. Yeah, a Achilles tendonitis. Anyway, give me 1 second. I am going to go to the restroom. I'll be right back. Back and hopefully badder than ever. So as we go through Goldie's journey and his reacquaintance with people he knew before prison, of course he meets his mother. His mother's played by Juanita Moore. That was kind of her typecasting. She played Tommy Gibbs' mother in the Black Caesar films. Those two films with Fred Williamson. She played mother in a lot. She maybe in Imitation of Life, the remake, if I'm correct. She was really a certain type. They always had a type for her. Just nurturing, sweet, older black woman who single-handedly kept the family together and with a roof over their head and food to eat. So he reunites with her, and one of his motivations is, and this is true of Tommy Gibbs too, when he makes it as a mobster. Goldie wants to treat her right and give her a big house and all this kind of stuff, and it's very touching. Max Julien has a very humanistic touch, even though he's starting to become distant and money obsessed and power obsessed. He still has this humanity to him in what he does. He has a gentleness with certain people. So he reunites with his brother. His brother is at a Black Power movement meeting, and his name's Olinga, and it's not clear whether that's a name taken by him to take an African name to get back to Africa, that kind of thing. I'm talking about that kind of thing. I mean, back then. I mean, not as it's contextualized now. Anyway, I don't know if that's his birth name or not. But anyway, Goldie's not our characters either. Goldie and Olinga. So Olinga is wearing some really cool outfit. It's played by incredible Roger E. Mosley, who used to wear a nose ring. and I guess they made him take it out when he got in Magnum PI. He was on Terminal Island. He uttered the famous line, "Welcome to Terminal Island, baby," while he's stomping on this girl's head. He's been in a lot. He's been a hitman. He was a thug. I don't know. Roger E. Mosley has an amazing range, great presence. I don't know what became of him, but he's famous for being Magnum's sidekick. So, if there was a Magnum feature film, he'd be the first to die. He'd be like the black guy that's first to die, or he'd be the comedy relief. I didn't watch Magnum a whole lot, but so pre-Magnum, Roger Mosley plays Olinga, and Olinga is giving a speech, and he's like, "What we have to realize is we have to build a community and a world. We have to exist, and we have to make a Black America within, but apart from white America." Everybody cheers. So. And I dig this character. He's fired up, man. He's a real positive energy character. It's like, yeah, he probably wants to kill some whiteys, but sorry, but he's also like he's really sweet to Goldie, and he immediately assumes Goldie's gonna come into the fold, and Goldie rebuffs him, and it's a little hurtful. And they have some encounters here and there. Olinga he's starting to witness Goldie being a Mac, and he's like, we can't exploit our own people. We got to get the pimps and the pushers and off the street. We got to stop. We got to stop demeaning and degrading our own people, and that's what you're doing by playing into this system that gives you this kind of slave master thing with pimps and this rampant, insane capitalism with the drugs coming in, usually from the CIA, pumped into the cities, and they sell to their brothers and sisters on the streets, no matter how dangerous it is. Again, I'm not going on a moral rant of my personal opinions. This is just the scenario. This is the way things were within that world in this film, but also at the time in reality, mostly. I've embroidered a couple of things, but pretty much just truth. As I seek truth. So, Goldie, he starts to become a little mean and demanding of the women, even Lulu. So the Lulu love affair, which I thought was going to happen, against all odds, the pimp and his product, become a thing, and they redeem themselves, and Max and Carol have a nude romp and a shower with an incredibly lurid soul song. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. He became a fucking asshole to poor Lulu. She got beaten by a guy, John, and he's like, "I don't care. Give me my money." And it's a sad thing. So who else does he reconnect? He reconnects with this mobster guy played by George Murdock, and he's kind of a overweight, aging guy, balding guy who's like very intense. He's like a bulldog kind of. He's been in some things. He was even in another movie that Max Julien wrote and starred in called Thomasine and Bushrod. I believe they were opponents in that film too. This guy likes Goldie, and he kind of tries to do a head trip on Goldie. There's a lot of philosophy laid down in this movie. That's one thing I really, really like about it. It's like you see these dimensions to these characters. He's like, because Goldie used to be an errand boy for this guy. They just call him Fat Man. And Fat Man Beyond. Sorry, Kevin Smith. So he's like, you could be great with me, man. You could be great with me, Goldie. We could do it together, man. He acts like he's just, And Goldie is cynical as fuck. He's like, I want to do it myself. I want control. I want to make the money. No one's going to tell me what to do. And, that's what he tells everyone. Julien communicates this really powerfully. Even though sometimes he's a dick about it, he also represents total Black liberation. And at one point he tells his brother, he said, "You don't get it. being rich in, he says, being black and being rich in America means something. Being poor means nothing. So again, a debate that has raged for decades, and the culture has changed, and yeah, so there's layers to all this, of course. So yeah, Goldie, that's his thing, man. Money, 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 money. He feels empowered because he was a black man stripped of his freedom and his masculinity from birth, and then for 5 years in a prison cell. So you can see his motivation very clearly. He's a very well delineated character. So these other characters from his past that he encounters are the true villains of our piece. The Fat Man is one, and these cops. I'm going to see if I can get their names right. Don Gordon is Hank, and man, I don't know if this other guy's the right guy or not. Yeah, I don't really know this other guy's name. I don't know the actor or the character's name. I should at least know the character's name by now. I suck. Anyway, so Hank and his buddy, I think it's Jed. So Hank and Jed are messing around with Goldie. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And they're assholes. Don Gordon, the great Don Gordon, who was in Out of the Blue. Just fantastic actor and really good at playing characters that push people's buttons, that trigger people. He has that unctuous, weaselly thing, but he's so contained as an actor. I mean, you hate him, but you don't completely hate him. And there's one scene that's focused from his point of view. Just one. It's almost an anomaly within the film. And, him and Jed hassle Goldie. They throw him in the trash can or something and tell him that he makes a move, they're gonna bust him. And it's like, come on, we love this, do something, man. We love beating your ass. And of course, Goldie is just seething with hate of these two racist motherfuckers. So there's a scene with Hank where he has just had sex, or is about to have sex, or maybe has had sex and about to have sex again with a prostitute, and she's a very voluptuous African American woman. Pretty large, but pretty fairly in proportion, and not unattractive. And this is all subjective to me. Okay, don't it's nothing. I'm not making any racial statements or genetic statements about anyone's pulchritude or lack thereof. And he starts telling her, that he likes being with women like her, big women like her, and he makes this kind of animal analogy where he's like, you can trust the elephant. The elephant's it's big. You can see him coming. He's straight up. He's what he is. I'm paraphrasing wildly, but not completely. And he's like, but I think the other animal he mentions is an ostrich, maybe, or some kind of bird. And he's like, that one's sneaky. They sneak up on you. The little ones, the little white ones, they sneak up on you and fuck you up, And this woman is looking, just listening, just blank face, and seeming to become more and more annoyed and degraded by his commentary. When in his mind, he's complimenting her. I mean, there's nothing wrong with telling a big black woman that you prefer big women to little women, and you can even philosophize about it. It may not be like MACK. I mean, like Hank's philosophy. I mean, I've done it. I'm not going to say, I haven't. But that's a case-by-case thing with people. This guy is a racist. So, but of course, ironically, his sexual fetish is large black women. Now, they don't explore this anymore, except that one scene, which almost seems out of place in the film, but it gives you the context of the psychology. So again, Don Gordon is one of these guys. He can pull these dimensions out of these seemingly one-dimensional characters, and you're like, oh wow, it's riveting to watch. He's riveting in this small role Out of the Blue, which yes, I'm going to review soon. So Another pimp comes along, and his name's Pretty Tony, I believe. Pretty Tony, played by the great Dick Anthony Williams. And the Dick Anthony Williams, I think he also has kind of a nice CV here of cult movies. Let me see. He was in Edward Scissorhands when he was an older guy, the Players Club. But yeah, as far as this era, he's in Slaughter's Big Ripoff, Five on the Black Hand Side, Dog Day Afternoon, Deadly Hero, An Almost Perfect Affair. He was great with that, with Keith Carradine and Monica Vitti. That is a really sleeper, unusual movie. I doubt that will ever come on Blu-ray. It's not a great movie, but it's just a nice little movie. He is great in that. He plays the character named Andrew Jackson. And way back, he plays in the Anderson tapes, which is by Sidney Lumet. To me, is a really great Sean Connery spy film. I adore the Anderson tapes. I actually much prefer it to his James Bond movie. There goes half my subscribers. Anyway, Tony's kind of a dick himself, but he is pretty. He's got the vines, you know. He's got the fine vines, you know. He's tricked out, and so there you go. So they have the Players Ball or whatever, which apparently is a real thing, and apparently they filmed the real thing and insert the characters like Goldie and his entourage and Pretty Tony and his into the scenes, and everyone else plays themselves. So there you go, production value right there. You know, kind of like when Larry Cohen decided to use the real life parade for God Told Me To, and just insert Andy Kaufman in there and have a gun sniper. Another movie I'd really like to get on Blu-ray. If you want to be a sponsor, you could pick it up for me. It's cheap. I love it. I'd love you forever for it. So, yeah. So things get finally to the point where someone kills his mother, Goldie and Alina's. And that's when their schism, which has been going, let me just say one thing. Before their schism, before the mother's death, there is one last kind of key scene. And it's Diane. So Diane is this beautiful white woman, long, dark brunette hair, you know, very much of the era, slim, nice figure, but slim, kind of hippie-ish, sort of, very 70s woman. Like, she would be on the cover of Cosmopolitan. It's certainly in the pages of Cosmopolitan. And Goldie has this earnestness comes out in these characters in these isolated moments. And he kind of gives her the rap. And you know, there's a part in Superfly, you know, his main girl is Georgia, and she's black. But he also has a side piece, as they call him now, a girlfriend, I forgot her name. And she's kind of she's a white woman who's pretty obsessed with Priest and basically lounges around, you know, doing cocaine and eating in this luxurious pad and waiting for him to come home to fuck her. And in one scene, you know, where he's having his crisis of conscience, you can say, Priest is like, I thought I wanted all this, you know, the money, the vines, the things, possessions, and even a woman like you. And of course, right away saying part of his dream thing to make it in America as a young black man is to have a fine white woman who's kind of his lover / slave, you know, sex slave companion. Even if he has a main piece, a main squeeze, we used to call him, who's black. So again, I'm not commenting on whether this is a true phenomenon or not. I'm putting it out. I'm putting all this out for you guys to think. Whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, I don't care. But I actually would like different races to watch my channel and maybe think about some of this stuff. And if you have anything to say, you know, let me know. I mean, don't come on here and go, you goddamn racist motherfucker. You know, I'm canceling your ass. because, you know, fuck you, I'll cancel your ass because I'm not a racist motherfucker. I like black people more than white people. I'm just going to be frank about it. I don't hate Whitey or anything. And see, Whitey, that was an insult, like honky, you know. But to me, that encapsulates the era where the black militants are just missing Caucasians. You know, just like Caucasians for centuries before that dismissed them with all kinds of nasty words, including the N word. So I think the Black Power guys saying down with Whitey, you know, I give them some props. I'm not offended. I'm white and I'm not offended. And I get annoyed by white people who get annoyed by blacks who want freedom and power and agency. Pisses me off no end. So that's one of my real feelings. So there's a scene like that with Priest and Diane, and basically, you know, of course, he's giving her basically the same rap. He's got her under his control, and he likes her. He's kind of persuading her, you know. When he first meets her, he gives her this kind of thing, and she kind of falls under his spell. And then later, you know, he talks to her again. And one more in between scene, he does this. This scene is very strange. He does this giant, what do you call them? It's not an auditorium. My brain's going blank. You know, it's a giant dome where the stars and the planets are projected. My brain's just hitting it. He goes to that, and then he plays a little bit of music, and he makes all these women, basically hypnotizes them. He's like, "You will serve Goldie. Everything you do will be for Goldie." That seems a little over the top and on the nose, but you know, it might have been something Iceberg Slim did. I'm not sure. It is emphasizing his Maxim, his surrogate character, the blind man's Maxim in the film. You know, anyone can control a woman's body. The key is to control her mind, and so it's a mind fuck. You know, and Goldie is an intelligent man. He's banking on the fact that these women are stupid enough to see all this whole philosophical cosmic thing about it, and I just God worship. So again, it's him really going into the darkness, really corrupt and greedy for power, affection, attention, control over other people. Everyone, he wants to be like a god because society has treated him like an insect to be stomped. So he's ready to ascend, but he's really descending into degradation and corruption. So when his mom dies, him and Olinga hook up, and well, not at first, Olinga. Him and Richard Pryor, Slim, hook up, and they track Dick Anthony Williams, Pretty Tony. He's like, "Stick yourself, stick yourself." They've got a gun on him, and he's like, "What?" You know, so he makes him cut himself with his own knife a bunch of times. Then they just blast him away. Another interesting scene shortly before this, kind of the middle, like second act, that I just want to talk about before I get to the ending of the film, involves Richard Pryor's Slim. So those two cops are harassing them. This time they're, you know, harassing Slim and Goldie, not just Goldie, in an alleyway, and it's, you know, it's brutal. The things they say, it's horrible, nasty, racist shit, you know, and it's starting to get physical. And Goldie manages to extricate himself from the situation and kind of dust off his cloak. Yes, he wears a cloak in addition that they had. He's like, he's a wizard, the wizard of pimpin', the MACK wizard. And I'll think of a better one later. He's detaching himself, but Slim has been triggered, you would say nowadays. And he's like, "I don't care, Goldie. These motherfuckers can't do it to me. Trying to get over me, man, I'll kill you." And that goes on for about 2 minutes. I mean, mine's loud, but his is way loud. Pryor Unchained. So there's a really, really interesting point Max Julien makes on the audio commentary, and I alluded to this earlier, I think, is that really did trigger Richard Pryor, not just the character Slim he's playing, but him. And he began, according to Max Julien, he believes that Pryor began seeing these two cops, which are really actors, abusing him and having this attitude and using these vile words. He starts to have flashbacks of all his abuse, and not just by cops, but by his family and the sexual abuse and all kinds of shit. He partially grew up in a brothel, and he's basically shouting, you're not going to, I'm paraphrasing a little, but he's like, you're not going to get over on me. And he's saying it like a desperate, crying child about to just cry out and scream. And Goldie has to kind of drag him away. So that was Pryor Unleashed. That emotion he expresses towards that situation is totally real, and they kept rolling. There was no like cut. Hold on, Richard, do this. And I think it's brilliant. I think Pryor's brilliant. So Olinga blames his brother for the death of their mother, and he says, because they still believe it was Pretty Tony, and they get into it, and he's like, you have brought death to our house. He goes to the funeral, and he's like, we are done. I just love when he says, you have brought death to our house. And Mosley nails it every second in this film. And Goldie is in a fucked up place now. It seems his mother's kind of put a bad spin, the fact that he just cold-bloodedly murdered Pretty Tony. I think he also blew a guy up. They're in the same scene with dynamite. He's just, and he's very cold about it. He's almost like a horror villain. He's like Christopher Lee or something. He's with his cloak, and he's like, "Stick yourself." It's really riveting. So the two fucking cops, Hank and Jed, once again grab him on the street. And now Olinga has told Goldie, he's like, I'm going to be watching you. I'm going to be watching everything you do. It's like, I'm going to be your shadow. And I think Olinga's basically saying, I'm going to stop you from succeeding on one level. And the other level, I'm going to get revenge on you somehow, possibly killing you. And so it's a heavy thing to lay on Goldie. So the cops start hassling Goldie, and then the thing with Pretty Tony comes up, and Goldie assumes that they're going to try to bust him for murdering Pretty Tony, which in this case, yes, he actually did do it. And Gordon, as Hank says, "No, man, it wasn't that pimp. I killed your mother, blew her away, man." And they're standing right in front of this wall, which is about, maybe 5 feet, 6 feet high. So it's a little taller than them, and overlooking something. And as he's shouting this, and then he starts to go into it and talk smack, Olinga has been following him, and he climbs the wall. He starts climbing the wall probably anyway, but when he hears, I'm the one that killed your mother, he leans forward, he grabs Hank, his bare arms, and he's really ripped in this, and he just chokes him to death. And it's pretty intense. And I can't remember if they kill the other guy or the other guy gets away. I should remember that. But I want to say Goldie killed him, but maybe I'm wrong. It's just the way Hank says, don't sweat about that guy. I killed your mother. And he's like, he doesn't give a fuck. I just, So, this is kind of the climax of these two men's lives, these two brothers. And so it ends at a bus station, and when he's getting out of prison in the beginning, he's riding the bus home, thinking real hard and contemplating his next move, and now he has nothing to do but do that, contemplate his next move. And him and Olinga kind of, do the thing, but I think they hug him. They hug, but I'm not sure. It's strained. They're just like, yeah, they've killed, the guy who killed their mother, but there's still the fact that Goldie brought death to their house, and that's not going to change. And Olinga's probably not going to change his path, but he's going to rethink some things because now he's probably going to be wanted for murdering a cop. So he's probably going to get away too. So we don't know where, when, or how, but with Goldie we do. And so Goldie boards the bus and it goes off, and then the theme music, the same thing I rapped to, the lyrics. It's incredible. All the music's incredible. All the photography's great. I just love the way everyone is shot, the colors of their outfits, their skin tones. Because Max Julien has a very, he's a very mixed black man. He has some aspects of what some black people used to call red bone or, mulatto. That was an uncharitable one. Again, I'm not saying these words as not knocking anybody or towards black people. I'm just reporting. And he's very handsome. He has a great combination of traits. I think racially mixed people, to me, are some of the most stunning people on earth, to look at, and especially women. And that's it, man. That's the story. That's the story of the MACK. I told you the story about the MACK. So let's throw it in context real quick for this channel. MACK ain't on Blu-ray, and I'm pissed off about it. Sean Lee Levin, good buddy, patron of the channel, said, that's a crime against humanity. It's simply a crime against cinema. And even that's an exaggeration, but I don't care. It's a crime against cinema. So watch it when you can. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. It's extreme/forgotten, extreme taboo topic and seemingly forgotten by the studios that used to, distribute it on other media. So the other thing I want to say real quick is thank you to all the sponsors. I really, really deeply appreciate it. And I'm going to keep plugging on. The channel's it was in stasis 2 months ago. Now it's kind of in transition, and I'm not sure what I'm transitioning toward or how I'm doing it. But I'll keep you posted. So that's it, man. I told you the story about the MACK. Goldie. So I'll see you soon. Love you guys.